This is an interview with a very special person named Sister Teresa.
Good girl.
Good evening, girls.
Good evening, Sister Teresa.
My name is Sister Teresa. I was born in 1939, 78 years ago. A long, long time before this school was built. 1939, January the 5th, 1939, in County Kerry, away down in the south of Ireland. In the month of January, it was very cold, and I was the oldest member of my family. I was the first baby in the family to be born. And the day I was born, my dad's mom died. So it was sad for him. He was in Cork burying his mom, and happy for my mom, who was having me, her first little baby. And then I grew up in Cork, and I was there until 1947. 1946, my dad died. I was only 7. I was in 2nd class. And then we went to Kerry because my mom was expecting a baby. And we were born in our grandma's house, not in a hospital. I went to school there to the nuns. And it was an unusual school because we had one nun, Sister Kevin, and we all, the desks were all around the room like that. There was big space in the middle. There were boys and girls in the school. And Sister Kevin taught us English, Irish and maths. And then we all went to different rooms for all the other subjects, for art and needlework and singing and dancing and history and geography and writing and knitting. We went to a different room where there was another nun, into an empty room. And she just stood in that room all day and taught, we'd say, knitting all day, or singing all day, or Irish all day, instead of staying in the same room. And I remember the Christmas I was there was a puppet show. And this man came in with a big tall hat, and he was pulling little bunny rabbits out of hats and everything. And I enjoyed that very much. It was a puppet show. Then in 1947, I was only reading about it yesterday when I was getting my hair done, there was a big snow in Ireland. It was called Black 47. The snow was up to the windows upstairs in the houses. About 6 inches of snow. All the cars and everything. There were no cars then. There might be 3 or 4 cars around. People had donkeys and carts, or horses and carts, and bicycles, but they couldn't cycle. They had to shovel away the snow. A lot of people died, all the animals died. There was no food, there was no water, and unless people had enough shopping in, there was no, the people who died of the snow. Then we went back to Cork, and I was in 2nd class, and I was there until 1949, and I got very sick. I got paralyzed. I got what is called polio. It was a very bad disease, and there was you're supposed to go to hospital, but I didn't go to hospital because I got a doctor who didn't know what was wrong with me. I couldn't walk. I went to bed with a very bad headache, and when I went to get out to go to the bathroom, my legs just curled up under me, and I fell on the floor and I couldn't walk, and I didn't know what was wrong with me. And I was like that for 3 or 4 months.
Oh.
And then, while I was like that, I was getting ready for my confirmation. I was going to make it the next year, in 4th class, 1949. Schools then were hard. There was a big fire in the top of the school in the winter time, and we got turns. There was only 4 people in my class, 2 boys and 2 girls. We had only 1 teacher in Cork for the whole school. Junior infants, senior infants, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. 1 teacher. And there were 3 or 4 people in 1 class, and babies with the ball frame, the abacus. And we had kipini, little sticks like the lollipop sticks you have. We call them kipini. And clorini, little blackboards. And we drew with chalk. Or we had black copybooks with tissue paper in between them, and we did our drawing. And we singing, and we had stiff concerts and that at Christmas time. And then 1950, I was 10 years of age, and I wasn't able to go into the secondary school, because I wasn't able to cycle. My legs were too weak. I learned to walk again badly. So I became a boarder in that red building down there. Was a boarding school, St. Mary's boarding school. We used to sleep in the top floor, big bedrooms with beds all around the floor, about 10 beds in every room. And there would be a nun there staying with us all night. And a big bed would go in the morning at about 6:30. And we all had to hop out of bed, and the stars would be in the sky to be black dark. And we had to get dressed, get washed and get dressed and go to Mass every single morning, unless we were sick. All in silence. And then we came back, and after that we had our breakfast in the dining room and washed up our cups and saucers and all the different things. And 9 o'clock we went to class. Sat in class all day. And we different nuns, all the nuns were teaching us. We had nuns for everything. And I was there for 6 years. We had to go home for Christmas down to Cork. Christmas, Easter and the summer I get holidays. In between times I was down there. I can see the windows there. The windows you can see up there in the top, that was the infirmary. When you got sick you were in those rooms. If you got the flu or something. And there was a nun there who was a nurse and got in the doctor to us and looked after us. When I was a boarder, I played tennis and hockey. Tennis, I loved hockey. And I was very good at hockey because when I got that ball, everybody got out of the way. I go, whack, and the ball.
When did you first join the convent to become a holy faith nun?
Thank you very much, Jill. That's a very good question.
Okay.
I did my leaving certificate in June 1956, and I joined the convent in October, the 7th of October 1956. I was 17 years old.
Sister Teresa, when did you first start teaching in school?
In St. Bridget's School.
In St. Bridget's
Yeah.
School.
I was teaching in St. Bridget's School in 1950. Let's see, I have to think about that. It was the summertime. 1957. I was there for 2 months in the building down opposite the convent. That was the first St. Bridget's School. It was a grey building. When you're passing by the gate and look in, you see 2 windows up high, or 3 windows, with a little cross on the top. And that was the old St. Bridget's School. And I was teaching senior infants there, I think. I was there for a few months. And then I went back into the convent and I had to learn how to become a nun. We sing a lot of prayers and going to Mass and all the rest every day. And I was also teaching in St. Mary's School, in the private school, which is now St. John's. There's a special school there now. I was teaching there in 1956 and 1959. And I remember then in 1974, they started building this school. Because the school down where I was first wasn't big enough and was too old. So they were thinking of building this. There was just a field here, a big green field. There was no pitch, no playing pitch out there. There was no palisading, none of those trees, none of that bank. This was a big, big field. Their view obstructed. They didn't want buildings going up to stop them looking down into the Botanic Gardens. So they had to keep digging down, 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 down. That's why you have all these steps coming down into the schools. People across the road didn't want another building going up in their way here. So there was a big hole here. They kept going down until they got solid rock. You can't build on mud. You have to build on stone. So they dug a big hole here. The pupils stayed in the old school. And the old school was still there until this school was finished. And then the next summer, they all moved up here. They started summer school the year after. It was nearly built a year before anybody came in. They had to paint it and put down the tiles on the floor and put in the windows. Oh, the rain is down. Put in the windows, and we had the same. We had the boot boxes, they were still there, and we had the hooks at the back for different people. But we didn't have any of these bulletin boards. I remember when the bulletin boards came, and they were all kind of linoleum. They didn't have those lovely coloured papers on them. And we didn't have all these lovely words around the walls, all the different posters. And we didn't have these presses. And we did have this. We did have that for bulletin board. There were different blinds in the windows. There were different windows. They're all new windows. They're all new blinds. They're all new lights. They're all new skirting board, the bulletin boards. We had blackboards here. We didn't have whiteboards. We had chalk and talk. Black chalk, chalk and talk. We had black boards and white chalk. And it wasn't very healthy because a lot of people had asthma and they were allergic to the powder from the chalk. And they would come up to the board and we got our homework and everything written on the board. The floors were the same. The desks were the same. They weren't always like those. They've been replaced. There were other ones before those. But we didn't have them in groups like that. We didn't have group teaching. We had them in rows. A desk, a desk, a desk, a desk, a desk, and chairs. And the same desk, 3 or 4 rows of desks. We didn't have them all in groups. They came in later on when the people in charge of the school wanted the children to teach in groups. That's why you have the different colours. The blue group, the yellow group, the red group, the green group. We didn't have groups like that. We just the whole class, all in a row, facing the teacher in the front. But there are other teachers here now with different things. You have computers, you have hip hop, you have your GAA, you have your hurling, football, games, and you go out playing different schools. And you have that lovely, do you ever go into that big playing pitch out there? Do you ever use that?
Yeah.
We didn't have those badges on our uniform. We didn't have that uniform. I can't remember what kind of a uniform they had. Your badge, I remember there were different nuns in charge, head nuns. And they designed those badges for our school. The badge you have, St. Bridget's, Glasnevin, it says. And we didn't have the anorak, you know, your jacket. And then I remember we didn't have the special uniform for PE. That was also new. We didn't have computers. And then you have all these lovely competitions in the hallway with the big girls doing the famous hats. You know, the lovely hat designs. They make special hats in the parades out in the hallway. And you get your photograph taken every year and it goes up on the wall, each class. First communion, when you make your first communion, you get your photograph taken with the teacher and it goes up on the wall out there. And all the different years are up. And sometimes people come back to see where their picture was on the wall and they made their first communion a long time ago. We used to have concerts out there every year. We had a drill display. And the first drill teacher out there, her name was Miss McCann. And she was teaching in the old school down there, and then she moved up here. And she would be out in the hallway, and she'd be doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 6, 2, 3, 4, 7, 2, 3, 4, 8, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2. And she'd be at this, and you'd nearly get a pain in your head. I don't know how she kept going. She'd be jumping up and down, and she was an old lady. And she was smoked like a chimney. She was teaching gym and drill. And we had Miss Lumsden was teaching dancing. She was here for years and years and years. They're all retired now and they've gone to heaven. They died because they got too old.
What did you teach when you were a nun?
I taught everything like Miss Moran. I was teaching everything except we had knitting and sewing, and I taught what else? I taught something else. I taught I used to have a band. I had a band in my class. There were 53 girls in my class. 53. And I had a band and they were all playing different instruments. And I taught the guitar. I taught 6 classes come in early in the morning and down in another school. I wasn't always here. I was in other schools all over Dublin and Wicklow. And when I was down in Newtown, Mount Kennedy in County Wicklow, the 6 class girls came in the morning and I taught them the guitar, how to play the guitar. I can't even remember how to play it now because I've forgotten. But we had, and I also taught them how to do, oh my goodness, my old head isn't too good. We used to have the Texaco competition. Do you ever do that?
No.
An art competition.
No.
It's for the whole of Ireland.
No.
And my class often got prizes because they were very good at art. And I was teaching in a room up the steps. And what room is it now opposite? On the
Room
right hand side.
9?
Is it?
It's 9 now, yeah.
Is it 9? Yes, 9 used to be the other side.
Yeah.
It used to be room 3, it's now room 9. I was teaching in there, the first communion class was in there, as they are now. I was teaching in there for a long time. I was there from 1976 until 2004. I was teaching in room 13. I was teaching in room 11. I had 3rd class and 4th class. I was upstairs, 3rd and 4th, like Miss Moore was sometimes. And I was downstairs in 1st and 2nd. Sometimes I was in the baby room, the infant room. We moved around all the time. At the age of 7, when I was in that school when my dad died in Kerry, when I was in the school where we moved around to the different rooms, we had lots of nuns there, but I liked the nuns there. And I kind of always had it in the back of my mind, I would like to be a teacher and I would like to be a nun at the age of 8. And I thought of that until I was doing my leaving cert down there. And I told my mom I wanted to be a Bon Garda. She thought I was going out of my head. And it was only starting in 1956. A notice went up on the bulletin board down in St Mary's School that the Gardaí, the men were going to bring in women and to be bring in the women to be Gardaí. And I told my mother I'd like to be a Bon Garda. So I had that in the back of my head for a while. And then I applied for Aer Lingus. I wanted to work in Aer Lingus and be a stewardess on the planes going over to America or going to England. And there were other things, civil service, working in offices that spend the day writing and typing. We had to learn typing. And there were lots of things that you had to try before you made up your mind because you weren't sure where you'd be taken. And most places you had to be 18 before you got into a job, and I was only 17 when I did my leaving cert, so it was a little bit difficult for me. So that's why I ended up in the convent anyway in the end, 1956, the 7th of October. My mom came with me, and she brought me into that convent down there in the grounds, and she left and she was crying her heart out leaving me behind. Any more questions?
What was the question? How did you become a nun?
You had to meet a whole lot of people who were in charge in the convent, the head nuns, and they would ask you, did you eat porridge for breakfast? Would you eat an egg? Do you say prayers? Do you say the rosary? Is anybody making you go into the convent? You had to go in of your own free will. Nobody had to push you in. And they'd ask you different questions like that, you know, just to see did you really want to become a nun, you know. Because then we spent nearly 3 years in the convent before we became a nun. We were getting ready to become a nun. Learning how to say the prayers, how to go to Mass, how to answer Mass. The Mass was in Latin. It wasn't in English, it was in Latin. And we had to answer the Mass in Latin every morning, 2 and 3 classes at a time. Well, do you like to ask a question?
What kind of clothes would you wear back then?
Well, when I was in the convent, I wore long black dresses down to my toes. And a black blouse, and a black skirt, and a black apron. And a little lacy hat on my head, with a black veil on it. And there was a little collar, a little bit like yours, on my blouse, a white blouse, a white collar, and a black dicky bow. That was
What was it like when the inspectors came to visit?
Oh, it wasn't a very nice time. Everybody was very worried and very anxious and very nervous in case he would ask you a question and you didn't know the answer. And you would be very embarrassed because you'd let the teacher down. And she would be upset because the head nun would be told that the girls in Miss Moore's class didn't know what the inspector was asking them. So you had to know all your lessons very well. And they came in and they spent the whole day in your room. A man, usually a man, they're usually no lady inspector. And they would spend the whole day in your room for when you started teaching first. For 2 years you had them. Nearly every week I had an inspector in my room. But I got used to them, you know, I didn't kind of mind them after a while, as them yap away. But they would be examining you, and I remember one time when I was teaching up in St. Canice's, up in Finglas. I was teaching up there, that was the first school I started teaching in. And Mr. Lynch was the kicker, his name. He was the head kicker, the head inspector. And he came into the room and the head nun was out. She was out looking for something in the city, in the shopping, for the school. And he came into my room. I was in room 6. And he came in and he was asking the children questions in maths and Irish. And then the bell rang at 12 o'clock and the head nun said the Angelus. And then we catechism like we have here, at 12 o'clock. And he stayed on and he started asking the children questions in Irish in their catechism. Cá will dia. Did you answer that question?
No.
Listen to me again now. First class. Cá will dia. Would you be able to answer that question? Who's dia?
What's your name?
No, Jim. Cá will is for Cá will to. If you were asked that question, Cá will to. If somebody came into the room and said Cá will to, where are you? Cá will to. And then Cá will dia. Dia is God. Where is God? Cá will dia. And the answer is Tá dia ingach oit. God is in every place. And he asked them all these questions and they were only in first and second class. And mo farsa ingach inia. How many persons in God? Tá 3 farsa inia. 3. God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Ghost. So all the catechism was much different. We had questions and answers. We hadn't the lovely catechism books that you have now. And every single year, a priest would come to the school and examining them in their catechism. And you'd be standing all around the room. And he would ask you the same for confirmation. You couldn't make a confirmation until you knew your catechism well. And we had about 83 questions in catechism to know, all up by heart. It wasn't easy. The spectrum would come every year just to examine the girls and their needlework. knitting and sewing. Sewing in buttons, making buttonholes, darning stockings, and sewing, doing all kinds of different sewing. Top sewing, hemming, running. And we had little sample, little bits of material, and they were all stuck into books. And they would be on display. And the girls in 6th class would make little skirts or dresses. I remember getting a cardboard skeleton, like the ones you have at Halloween, and tying it up and putting it up in somebody's, behind the door in somebody's bedroom. And she went in and turned on the light and saw this thing, and she started screaming. She didn't know what it was. We would get the day pupils. You see, we weren't allowed to mix with the day pupils. There were day girls coming in from home. People who lived around here would come into class. And we were the boarders, we would be in class with them. And we would get them to bring us in cans of fruit and bottles of lemonade and fruit and biscuits and cookies and bars of chocolate and that. And we would get up at the middle of the night, 12 o'clock at night, and we would have a midnight feast. We'd go into one of these. You see, there was a nun in our dormitory, so we couldn't have it there, but in 6th there, we had little cubicles, little rooms to ourselves. So we'd all get together in 5 and 6s and go into one of the bedrooms, and we had to open all the tins of fruit and take the tops off the bottles. And we had to do it very, very quietly, because if you wake the nun up, she'd be in to kill you. And we'd have a party in the middle of the night. And sometimes it wasn't kind of, some of the girls used to, did any of you ever walk in your sleep?
No. Yeah.
Some people do. They wake up at night time and they walk around, maybe downstairs, they walk into their parents' room or someplace. Some of the boarders used to do that, and they'd walk into the nun's bedroom. And she'd wake up, and they wouldn't be awake at all, but you could talk to them to go back to your bed. They would go back to their beds. But, I mean, it was kind of funny, you know. Did I ever walk in my sleep? No, I didn't. No, darling. No, but we used to have midnight feasts, are very good. We loved those. You think I'd have a little bit of sense then? But I remember in the training college when we were learning to be teachers, we were there for 2 years, and everything was in Irish. And there were the first years and the second years. And one of the ladies, one of the nuns, the old nuns were together. One of the nuns, Sister Jacinta was her name, in second year. And I was friendly with her, she was from Sligo. And I got empty bottles. And I tied them all under her bed. I went in under the bed and I tied them with bits of twine, the top of the bottle all under the bed. So when she got into the bed, she'd hear all this thing banging underneath it. We were banging together, all the bottles would be banging together under the bed. And she didn't know what was happening. And we used to give each other French beds. A French bed. A French bed. Now, in the olden days, we had beds with a spring on them, like your spring at home, except your spring is a box spring. It's to be like a box on the frame. But ours had a spring and it was on a frame. But if you moved it, it would fall off the frame and go down to the floor. But what we would do is we would move this box, we'd move the spring a little bit off the bars, off the frame. So when you went into the bed, the spring went down the ground, one half went up and the other half went down, and your head was down and your legs were up in the air. And it wasn't easy to get out of a bed with your legs up in the air, let me tell you. when I was in first year, there was a little magazine called The Gem. Now I know there's a shop down the street called The Gem. That wasn't always there. I remember when it was a house or something else. But there was a magazine we got in our school called The Gem, and it was for girls. And if you wanted a pen friend, I was about 11 or 12 years of age, and you would write to the address in the magazine and tell them your name, your hobbies, what you liked best doing at school, what age you were, what was your favourite colour, different things about yourself. And somebody in the book would match you up with somebody else in another part of the world. And I had a pen friend in England, in Southampton in England, and her name was Mary Leathers. She was an only child, and she used to write to me and I used to write to her. We used to exchange letters, and she gave me, something now that I think is a pity that we don't have them anymore, autograph books. We had a little book, different colour pages in it, and you gave it around to different people, and they would write a little verse in it. Remember this, and this you see, remember me forever, and they would sign their name and the date. And they would write, look up and down, and you will see that I love you and you love me. And you read it up and down like that, the writing is up and down. They would write little stories in that in your autograph book. And I still have mine somewhere. My mother brought it to America.
Are you still in touch with any of the people you used to teach?
Yes, Charlie, I'm in touch with people I taught in 1962. I had them in 1962, 1963, 1964, 1965, and they still come and visit me.
55 years ago, girls.
55 years ago, and we write to each other at Christmas time, and they come and visit me, and we exchange gifts, and we go out and have dinner together. And some of them invited me to their weddings, including my friend here,
That's right.
Miss Morn.
That's right.
I taught her years ago.
What have you loved most about teaching?
I love teaching. You see, I kind of used to like maths, because when I was 11 years of age, I was in 4th class. I left primary school in 4th class and I became a boarder. I spent 2 weeks in 5th class. And then I was put into first year, and I was still only 11. And I was learning French and Latin, as well as all kinds of English and maths and algebra and geometry and everything. And I had none of those things learned before. And I found maths very, very hard. So what I liked doing most about teaching in school was teaching maths to girls who found maths very, very hard. And I spent 11 years doing that. Up in a little room up there beside Mr. Manning. You know how Mr. Manning has a little room upstairs?
Yeah.
A small room. It's the English room. People go in there sometimes for help with their English. And I was in that room for 11 years, teaching maths to girls. In the whole school would come to me in groups of 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. And they spent a half an hour with me there, and I would help them with their math and show them easy way to remember things. And I still love teach singing. I loved teaching singing because I was good at singing myself. And I would tape them. I would get to sing, and I would put them on the tape recorder and play it back, and they would hear themselves singing on the tape recorder. And little cassette tapes. You don't have those now, they're gone. Walking up Washerwoman's Hill, that hill there coming up from the gym up to the convent. And my legs are never too good. I get pains in them, you know, from the time I had the polio. But I'd say to myself, I'd give anything now for a lick from a dog. And if I could meet a dog in the street, I would bend down and I'd say to the owner, can I pet your dog? And they'd say yes. And I'd bend down and give them my hand. And if they lick my hand, I know they'll be friendly. And they give me a little lick in the face. And I'd feel $1 million then. And I could climb the hill. $1 million, yeah.
Why?
Because the dog gave me a lick in the face. Yeah. I love dogs. Absolutely love them. Good for you.
Do you have any
Yes, darling,
advice
I
for
would
you?
like to tell the pupils that they should be very proud of their school. You have a very beautiful school, one of the best in Ireland, I would say. And you have beautiful uniform, you have lovely teachers. Welcome, girls!
Do you know what mischief is, girls? Sister Teresa's going to tell you.
When I was a boarder, we used to get up to mischief. And one of the things we used to do in the middle of the night, we would,
Let's go.
and then when we were nuns, we could play hockey and I just see a bluebird out there in the bushes.
Ooh.
And another thing I did another time, Lord save us, you're going to kill yourself. And I remember the different blinds. Oh my goodness. You all right?